Okay guys, let's talk about 3.3 today. I don't know what happened to the video in the set, but I'm going to have to do this one myself. So we have here proving lines are parallel. You can basically prove lines are parallel using any of the angle theorems. So corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, or consecutive interior. So here's an example here of two parallel lines cut by a transversal, lines L and M. So if these two lines are parallel, the corresponding angles should be congruent. And the opposite of that is true as well, the converse of that, in other words. So if the corresponding angles are congruent, then these two lines are parallel. So an example here is corresponding angles converse. Let's say angles 2 and 6 are congruent. That would signify that L is parallel to M. That means the line L and M are parallel lines. Alternate interior angles converse here. Let's say angles 3 and 5 are congruent. Angle 3 congruent to angle 5. That would mean the same thing then. So basically, this would mean that L is parallel to M. So basically this is just working backwards from the previous lesson 3.2. So if the lines are parallel, then the angles are congruent. If the angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. Alternate exterior here, we could work with example 1 and 7, angles 1 and 7. Angle 1 congruent to angle 7. That would mean line L is parallel to line M. And then consecutive interior angles are actually supplementary. So if the measurement of angle 3 and angle 6 is supplementary, then we would have the lines parallel as well. Alright, so again, that's the concept here of proving lines are parallel. If the angles are congruent, or in this case supplementary with consecutive interior, means the lines are parallel. So on the bottom here, if we're given that angles 2 and 4 are congruent, which two lines would be parallel is what I'm asking you here. It would be lines C and D. C is parallel to D. And the reason for that would be 2 and 4. If you turn this paper sideways, 2 and 4 are corresponding angles. So I'm just going to do COR instead of spelling out the full word each time. COR for corresponding. Alright, next one here, if 5 is equal to 10, then A and B are parallel. That would be alternate interior. Alt interior. So those would be alternate interior because they're inside or in between lines A and B, opposite sides of the transversal. These ones that are supplementary, those are obviously consecutive interior. But we have to figure out which ones are parallel, which line set. So 6 and 10 are interior for A and B. A is parallel to B, so that's consecutive interior. 1 and 14 here are alternate exterior for A and B. A is parallel to B, alternate exterior. And when I'm looking at this picture, I didn't say this at the start, but lines A and B are parallel and lines C and D are parallel is what we're trying to show here separately. So we're either working with A and B on each particular question, and these are separate questions, each of these letters. So we're either working with A and B, showing their parallel, or we're working with C and D, showing their parallel. So again, this one here is consecutive interior. And I just have to decide if it's working with A and B or C and D. So 14 and 15, here's 14, here's 15. That's working with C and D, because those are between C and D, not between A and B. They're exterior to B, and they're not even on line A. So that C is parallel to D. Alright, 11 and 16. 11 and 16 here. Oh, I threw in a trick question here. So 11 and 16 are actually not a parallel lines proof because those are just vertical. So I'm going to explain why they aren't parallel. These are vertical angles, not any of the other options, any of the other 5 options here, or 4 options. Corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, and consecutive interior. So that one doesn't work. 4 and 15 though are alternate exterior for A and B. A is parallel to B, alternate exterior. That's another exterior set for A and B. And again, when we're talking about exterior, we're talking about outside the lines. I shouldn't say outside lines, not between the lines. So A and B, the interior are all these numbers here, where my finger's coming across, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. That's the interior of A and B. And then C and D is these numbers here, 2, 3, 6, 7, 11, 10, 14, and 15. Alright, so 10 and 12, those are corresponding for lines C and D. C and D. So you can notice here that 10 and 12 are both on line B, both those angles, so it can't be A is parallel to B there that we're looking for, because they're both on line B. So that can kind of help you with this type of question when you're looking at it. So those are corresponding. They're in the same spot. 9 and 13 are supplementary. They're not the consecutive interior type of supplementary though. These are supplementary. Alright, 2 and 7, those would be alternate interior for C and D. C is parallel to D for alternate interior. And 6 and 11 don't match up at all. So this would be none here. So these aren't a set, 6 and 11. The reason they're not a set here is because 6 is on line C and A, 11 is on line D and B, but they're not corresponding alternate interior, alternate exterior, consecutive interior for both. So they're both in between A and B, but they're not on the same transversal. That's what I should have said at the start. They're not on the same transversal. So for them to be one of these 4 items that we're talking about here, they have to be on the same transversal. Transversal meaning the line that cuts 2 other lines. And then 6 and 11 are on 2 different transversals. So they're not supposed to match there. And if they do match, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean any of the lines are parallel. Alright, so there's page I forgot my page numbers here. 100. We're going on to page 101 now. Alright, so this is a very odd photo. But this, we're trying to show PQ is P and Q are parallel, or Q and R are parallel for this particular question. So we're either trying to show PQ or QR. So 9 and 22, or actually we could show P and R as well. So 9 and 22, if those are congruent, that would mean Q is parallel to R. 8 and 13, if those are supplementary, that means P is parallel to Q. So this would be alternate exterior. Alternate exterior. This one here would be consecutive interior. 1 and 17, those would be corresponding for P and R. Corresponding. 16 and 20, 16 and 20 would be alternate interior for Q and R. Alternate interior. And by the way, when I test this, I don't usually do a huge group of questions like this, because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is 10 questions right here in a row. 5 and 24 are P and R, and they're alternate exterior. This is just for practice, what these questions are. So 5 and 24 alternate exterior. They're exterior from P and R. So in other words, they're outside of line P and outside of line R. 10 and 13, sorry, 4 and 17. 4 and 17, if those are supplementary, that would mean P and R are congruent. And that is actually, of course, consecutive interior. Consecutive interior. Because they're both in between lines P and R, the 4 and the 17. Okay, so 10 and 13, 10 and 13. 10 10 should not be equal to 13 here because the picture doesn't look like they're equal at all. But if they were in fact equal, Q and R would be parallel. Sorry, not Q and R. S and T would be parallel. So that is a very odd statement to make. 10 is congruent to 13 because 10 looks like it's acute and 13 looks like it's obtuse. I don't draw pictures like this where they're not to scale. So some teachers will do that, and some and on the SAT sometimes they'll do that too. 10 and 13, 13 looks acute and 10 looks acute. Those should be supplementary if S was congruent to T, if S was parallel to T. Sorry. So this was done properly. This was done to scale like I do it. If these were congruent, that wouldn't mean anything. They have to be supplementary for S and T to be parallel. So that doesn't mean anything if those are congruent in terms of congruent lines or parallel lines. Alright, so I can't show you that there are any parallel lines there. We could actually come back to this later on and do an isosceles triangle type proof with this, where if these two are equal, then 14 and we'll come back to that maybe a little bit another time, but not today. 3 and 22, those are corresponding for P and R. Corresponding angles. 5 and 15, those are alternate exteriors for P and Q. Alternate exterior. And then if 11 and 16 are supplementary, if 11 and 16 are supplementary, this is what I was talking about. This was like the other one we just talked about, 10 and 13, if they happen to be supplementary. If 11 and 16 are supplementary, that one there would mean S is parallel to T. And that's the kind of question I'm not gonna do. That's the consecutive interior. Because it doesn't look like they're supplementary, 11 and 16. It looks like they're the same. Both of them are obtuse, in other words. So I will draw the pictures to scale. So anyways, so there's a bunch of practice questions. Go back and go through them again if you want some more practice with this. You can also look up some videos on alternate interior, alternate exterior, consecutive interior to help you out. So for these proofs, if I'm given that 4 and 5 are supplementary here, angles 4 and 5 are supplementary, what that would mean is that we can prove that these two lines are parallel given this. So this is my given. This is the definition of supplementary. And then because they're supplementary and they're consecutive interior angles, the lines are parallel. So the last statement here is consecutive interior. Angles congruous. The second proof, it goes through the same strategy. So 1 and 2 form a linear pair, so that was given. So when we're doing proof, you always write down the givens first. So this one of these other ones is going to be given as well, which is the second one, or the third statement here. Angle 1 and 4 supplementary was also in the given category. Alright, so this here, angle 1 and 2 is supplementary. That's what linear pair means. So we could say here that this is the definition of linear pair, or definition of supplementary. In other words, they're synonyms. They mean the same thing. So 2 is equal to 4. The reason for that is because 1 is equal to 2. Excuse me, not 1 is equal to 2. 1 and 2 are supplementary, and 1 and 4 are supplementary. So this would be what's called a transitive property. What the transitive property says is that if you have two things equal to the same thing, they equal each other. The transitive property of equality. And then A would be parallel to B here because 2 is equal to 4. Those are corresponding. So this is a corresponding angles. Alright, so there's page 101. And then we have one more page here to do together, 102. And then you guys can try the work, which the work on 103 starts off with like 15 questions here about the same lines. So you're trying to show J is parallel to K, or L and M, or M and N are parallel. Alright, so this is basically numerical stuff with the same thing we just practiced. So these are going to equal each other or they're going to supplement each other. So I'm either going to set them equal or supplementary depending on their locations. So they're equal if they're alternate interior angles. So I set them equal here. 10x equals 160, x is equal to 16. These are corresponding angles. Sorry, alternate interior. You guys are probably wondering, what is he talking about? Yeah, alternate interior. These ones are corresponding though, corresponding angles, and they're still equal as well. So I'd add 11 there. 9x equals 80. So I subtract 11. 63. X is 7. These would be supplementary. So I'd have 6x minus 30 plus 96 equals 180. Those are consecutive. These would be equal. 7x plus 5 equals 33 because of alternate exterior. Alternate exterior. These would be equal because of corresponding. 8x minus 17 equals 5x plus 19. And again, you could solve these by just moving the x's over. So this would be 3x is equal to 36. X is 12. I didn't solve the two above yet. This would be consecutive interior. And they would be supplementary. 12x minus 29 plus 4x plus 1 equals 180. These ones would be alternate interior. They'd be equal. 6x plus 5 equals 8x minus 37. This one would be corresponding. 4x minus 18 equals 90. That box means 90. This would be alternate exterior. Alternate exterior. 23x plus 1 equals 27x minus 19. And then this one would be consecutive interior. And they would be supplementary. 13x minus 2 plus 4x minus 5 equals 180. So that's what you're doing here. You're just deciding, do they add to 180 or are they equal to each other? They add to 180 only if they're consecutive interior. Or I guess I could do some where I had them supplementary next to each other. But we've done that. We've had that already in the notes. Again, sorry about this 3.2 video. It just didn't get posted right for some reason by the author. She put a different number by it. And I had to do it myself. Anyways, we'll talk about these more if you need me to. On the back here is the questions, 103 for you to do. Question 2, don't worry about so much. Question 1, you should be able to talk about all these, and then the other questions on the other page, you should be able to solve most of those for X. Good luck.